Welcome to Bedtime Myths and Mysteries, the channel where shadows are given voices and history's most chilling whispers come alive. Tonight, we unravel a tale that has echoed through the marbled halls of power, through chambers of justice, and across the very heart of America's capital. It is a story both absurd and terrifying, woven into the fabric of Washington, D.C. itself. Some dismiss it as superstition, others swear it is real. It is the legend of the demon cat of Washington, D.C. So, settle in. Let the city lights fade. Let the sound of distant traffic dissolve into silence. And prepare yourself for a mystery that prowls not in forgotten forests or haunted castles, but in the very corridors where presidents, senators, and lawmakers have walked. The birth of a capital and its shadows. When Pierre l'Enfant laid out the grand design of Washington, D.C. in 1791, he envisioned a city of symmetry, geometry, and classical beauty. Wide boulevards radiated from the capital, monuments stood as testaments to permanence, and government buildings loomed with a deliberate air of power. But behind the polished marble, the cobblestones, and the rising spires, darker foundations were also being laid. The city was built not just by architects and visionaries, but by enslaved men and women whose labor remains etched invisibly into its stone. Washington, D.C. was a city of contrasts, grandeur above, suffering below. Perhaps it is no surprise, then, that stories of restless spirits emerged. Every city, after all, has its ghosts, but few are as strange or as unsettling as a phantom cat said to haunt the very seat of American government. The first sightings. The legend of the demon cat begins in the early 1800s, though its exact origin is shrouded in half-remembered accounts. The earliest written reports speak of guards stationed at the United States Capitol building during long, lonely nights. These men claim to see, from the corner of their eye, a small shadow darting across the marble floors. At first, they thought little of it. Cats were common in cities, used to hunt rats and mice. But what they described was no ordinary feline. According to their testimony, the cat they saw would first appear small, the size of a household pet, but within moments, before their very eyes, it would begin to grow. Its eyes would glow like hot coals, its back would arch as though ready to pounce, and its form would swell until it reached the size of a tiger. The men swore they could hear the scrape of claws against stone, the low growl of something feral, and the suffocating sensation of being stalked. And then, just as suddenly, it would vanish, a city of mausoleums. Why a cat? Why not a ghostly soldier, or a president, or some figure tied to the nation's history? Part of the explanation lies beneath the Capitol itself. In the early days of its construction, the basement was a dim, cavernous warren of storage rooms and corridors. It also held the crypt, designed originally to house the tomb of George Washington. Washington's family, however, declined the offer, and the crypt was left empty. Empty, but not unused. Rats scurried through it in droves. Stray cats were released to deal with the infestation. Some say one of these cats never left. Others suggest that what prowls there now is no ordinary animal, but the restless spirit of a guardian, or perhaps a harbinger. The demon cat and disaster. What makes the story so unnerving is not just the cat's appearance, but its alleged connection to calamity. Over the centuries, witnesses have claimed the demon cat appears before national tragedies. One famous account comes from 1865, just days before President Abraham Lincoln's assassination at Ford's Theater. A guard in the Capitol reportedly saw the demon cat slinking through the hallways. He described it as swelling to monstrous size, its eyes gleaming like lanterns before vanishing into thin air. Another report surfaced in 1929, on the eve of the stock market crash that would plunge America into the Great Depression. Once again, guards swore the phantom appeared, prowling near the Capitol's crypt. And in the 1960s, a janitor working late at night in the White House basement claimed to see a massive black cat staring at him with fire-bright eyes. That same week, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. Coincidence? Perhaps. But the pattern is enough to keep the legend alive. The fear of the Watchman. For much of Washington's early history, the Capitol and its adjoining buildings were guarded not by professional security, but by watchmen. These men were often poorly paid, poorly trained, and left to wander the echoing halls in solitude. Their job was to prevent vandalism, fires, and theft. It was in these lonely hours, as candlelight flickered against stone and silence pressed in from every side, that the demon cat was most often reported. Some watchmen quit after seeing it, refusing to ever return to their posts. Others stayed, but spoke in hushed tones of glowing eyes that appeared suddenly in the dark, or the sound of claws clicking on marble. Skeptics laughed, claiming these men were drunk or half asleep. But over time, the accounts grew too numerous to ignore. The White House sightings. Though the demon cat is most often associated with the Capitol, its legend stretches to the White House as well. In fact, several staffers have claimed to encounter it in the basement. One story tells of a soldier who was making his rounds during World War II. He reported seeing a black cat growing in size until it loomed as large as a lion. He reached for his weapon, but before he could fire, it dissolved into mist. Another tale claims President John Quincy Adams himself once mentioned the phantom feline, though no written record survives to confirm this. To this day, whispers persist among staff and guards that if you see the demon cat in the White House, something terrible is about to happen to the nation. Skeptical explanations. Of course, not everyone believes in a spectral feline prowling the halls of power. Skeptics argue that the sightings are little more than tricks of the light. The Capitol and White House both contain long, dimly lit corridors where shadows move strangely. A small cat, or even a scurrying rat, might easily appear larger in the imagination of a tired guard. Others point to the psychological strain of working in such places. Imagine patrolling a vast, echoing building at 3 in the morning, alone with only your footsteps for company. The mind plays tricks. And if the story of the demon cat is already in your head, it might be easy to conjure its form in the shadows. Still, even skeptics cannot fully explain the recurring reports of glowing eyes, sudden size changes, or the eerie connection to moments of national tragedy. A city that loves its legends. Washington, D.C. is more than a seat of government. It is a city of stories. From the ghost of Dolly Madison, said to protect the White House gardens, to Abraham Lincoln's restless spirit, haunting the bedroom that bears his name. The Capitol thrives on legends. The demon cat fits neatly into this tapestry. It is both absurd, a ghostly house cat, and chilling, a beast that swells into something monstrous before national disaster. Whether real or imagined, It reflects the anxiety of a city that has always carried the weight of the nation's destiny on its shoulders. Modern encounters. Even in recent years, whispers of the demon cat have surfaced. Capitol police officers, though reluctant to go on record, have quietly admitted to strange experiences. Shadows that move against the direction of light. Glowing reflections in empty corridors. The sensation of being watched. Tour guides sometimes mention the story to visitors, though often with a laugh. Still, a laugh cannot always mask unease. The Capitol at night is not a place of levity. Its stillness is heavy, its silence absolute. In such a place, even the smallest sound, a soft pad of unseen paws, becomes sinister. The symbolism of the demon cat. Beyond the literal question of whether the demon cat exists, the legend carries a symbolic weight. Cats have always been creatures of mystery. In ancient Egypt, they were revered as guardians. In medieval Europe, they were often linked with witches and the supernatural. The demon cat of Washington, D.C. may simply embody the idea that power comes at a cost, that for every great decision made in the halls of government, a shadow waits just beyond the light. Perhaps the cat is less a creature than a reminder that disaster is never far away, and that those who rule are always under watch. Eternal watcher. So what are we to make of the demon cat? A trick of imagination, born from loneliness and shadows, a genuine supernatural guardian or omen of doom, or something stranger still, a manifestation of the city's history, its triumphs and its tragedies? We may never know. What is certain is that the story persists, whispered in corridors, written in old guard reports, and passed down through generations of Capitol staff. And perhaps, if you ever find yourself alone in Washington, D.C. after dark, wandering near the Capitol's crypt or the basement of the White House, you may hear the faint scrape of claws, the flick of a tail in the shadows, or the glimmer of two glowing eyes watching you. Thank you for joining me on tonight's journey into the heart of Washington, D.C. and its most peculiar phantom, the demon cat. If you enjoyed this exploration of mystery and legend, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Bedtime Myths and Mysteries for more tales of the strange, the eerie, and the unexplained. And remember, sometimes the most unsettling ghosts are not the ones of people, but of creatures that slip silently between shadow and light. Good night, and beware the cat that watches.